On Friday, November 15th, Netflix and Most Valuable Promotions bring you the highly anticipated heavyweight boxing mega event of the year. Jake El Gallo Paul will go toe-to-toe in the ring against Iron Mike Tyson, the baddest man on the planet. Don't miss this epic showdown live from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Watch Paul versus Tyson, Friday, November 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, live only on Netflix.
With Amex Platinum, you get priority notified with global dining access by Resi, so you can get first dibs if a spot opens up at restaurants. And compliments to the chef turns into compliments to your Platinum card. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Fergal.
And we're from Movie Smash.
Comic book movies are having a golden age right now with the MCU.
Movies based on comics aren't necessarily a new thing, but they're a big thing.
Join us every other Tuesday on Movie Smash.
We explore these movies and find some hidden gems.
Every other week, we revisit some of the best.
And some of the worst movies based on comics or graphic novels.
Was Green Lantern as bad as you remember?
Heck no!
Is Time Cop the most accurate time travel movie ever created?
Absolutely.
Was Mystery Men way ahead of its time?
Should they be revisited? Should they be forgotten?
Join us on Movie Smash and find out. Listen wherever you find your fine podcasts.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All2ReelToo. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame, Casual Racism, and Carta.
That's an interesting name.
Yeah, I know. It is.
Are you going to stick with that?
Probably not. I got a lot of people giving me, mean side eyes lately, so not a good look to call myself Casual Racism as a name, so probably not.
Yeah. I mean, it might be a good name for a band.
It could be, an ironic punk band name.
Yeah.
Instead of a neo-Nazi group, we're the Casual Racism band. We're we kind of don't like Asians, but we're not really gonna be mean about it, you know?
Or you're just the opposite of the name, where you're just totally, all your songs are about unity and how much you love everybody.
Yeah, that could be it too, yeah. Wow.
Good times.
Yeah.
So today on the show, folks, we're taking a little look back at the season 1, episode 1, the pilot of the now Netflix TV series Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai?
The episode is entitled Ace Degenerate, and it was written by Robert Mark Kamen, Josh Held, Hayden Schlossberg. The show was created by Josh Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossberg. They were the directors of the episode. The show stars William Zabka as Johnny Lawrence, Ralph Macchio as Daniel LaRusso, Zolo Marinduña. I can't pronounce his name. It's Marideuna.
Oh.
Anyways, he's also the guy that played. I haven't watched it yet. The Blue Beetle.
Cool.
Then we have Ed Asner as Sid.
Yep.
Dan Adut as Anush. We'll just go with that. Brett Ernst as Louis LaRusso Jr.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we have Mary Mauser as Samantha LaRusso. Annalisa Cochran as Yasmin, among other people in this pilot episode. So, okay. So this was my first time visiting it back since when it originally premiered, 6 years ago, 6-something years ago?
2018, April.
Yeah, so 6.5 years ago. I'm not up to date on the show at all. I've only watched maybe the first season. Sesame, however, is a big fan of the show. So yeah, what's your initial feelings here on this?
I love this pilot episode. I think it's one of the best in the entire series. In fact, they really went all out on it. Acting's great, the directing's great, the story's great. Just loved it. I remember watching this for the first time in April, I think 2018 when it first came out. And
Yeah.
I wasn't really sure if I was gonna like it or not, because I went through like a Karate Kid phase, when I was younger and stuff, but like kind of, stopped watching those movies for a really long time. So I saw this coming up. I'm like, okay, this might be interesting. We'll see. And then I went and watched this episode, and I was just like, oh my god, this is really good. So then I actually paused it, I think 10 minutes through, because I knew how much I was gonna like the episode. So then I paused it. I drove over to Taco Bell to get something to eat, and then took it home so I could eat the Taco Bell while watching, so I could maximize the amount of pleasure I'd get from watching the episode. I know.
So-
I do weird things like that.
So you like mainline some Taco Bell and some Cobra Kai at the same time here. Okay. So
I do things like that all the time to like maximize how much I like a situation. So I'll do like oh no, I need to eat some Taco Bell while I watch this.
I'll do that sometimes. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna have ice cream while I watch this new episode of a TV show. Yeah, it's like,
No,
ooh,
seriously, try it.
live show this week. I'm gonna eat some ice cream.
No, I'm seriously do stuff like that, because it does make things better. Anyway, so
Sometimes it backfires though, because you're like I'm really excited about this TV show, and the ice cream or whatever, or the Taco Bell I'm having, and then you are more excited about the Taco Bell in the long run, and then
yeah, that's true. Yeah, that can't happen. You're like, God damn it! Now I can't enjoy Taco Bell anymore because I attached the memory to Taco Bell.
it could be like the bad memory I have where I had Taco Bell once when I was in college, and I got really, really sick from it, and we had to pull over on the side of the highway, and I threw up in a ditch. And I was out of town and on the way home, and then I got home, and it just associated that with Taco Bell for years, and I didn't have Taco Bell for like 5 years after that.
Yeah, no, I know that happened.
Yeah. So yeah, the Internet Movie Database. I mean, I liked this. I like this episode a lot. I think it is a good pilot. The Internet Movie Database short synopsis of this episode is 34 years after losing the All Valley Karate Championship, Johnny Lawrence decides to reopen the Cobra Kai Dojo while his school adversary, Daniel LaRusso, runs a successful auto business.
I mean, that's pretty much, synopsis. But
yeah.
That's pretty much the gist of it, but obviously, the details add more.
A lot more happened.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, what does happen in this episode here, Sesame?
So, it begins with the memory of him. Well, I don't even know if it's a memory, but they're showing like the end of Karate Kid when they have their final match, and Daniel does the whole infamous crane kick or whatever, and then they kind of show him like pounding the floor or whatever, and then they show current day Johnny Lawrence in the same position.
I do like how they did it as a filmmaking aspect, where they used the footage from the original movie, but then they did recreate stuff like the footage of him laying on the ground where they kind of zoom in on the Cobra Kai logo on his back isn't from the original movie that was recreated for this episode. So
really different. You could even tell too when Daniel kicks him up close, it's the current or an older version of Johnny, not the you know what I mean? Like when they zoom in, you can see it for like 1 second. It's not the young version of Williams after an older.
Yeah, I think they just got body doubles. So but yeah.
And so he wakes up. He's pretty much like a miserable middle-aged man. He's got like a bag of chips just laying in his bed with them. Chips just strewn on his bed. Terrible hygiene. God, that's that's an invitation of rats and ants, all kinds of other shit you wouldn't want in your bed. He's got an open bottle of beer. Oh, good.
I'll take back what I just said. Sorry. I just read that's actually the alternate footage that they didn't use in the original movie.
Oh, okay.
That actually was them. So
okay, well that's kind of cool then. Yeah, that's why it's good to keep that extra footage, because you never know when you're gonna need it again. Don't ever delete your footage, guys. It's stored somewhere. You might find use for it later on in your life, like 20, 30 years. And then and so he's got an open bottle of beer that he drinks because he's pretty much waking up with a hangover, and spits it out because it tastes nasty. Because again, it's open beer, warm, and just. It's just it's just open. There's no just like flat tasting and nasty. So then he wakes up and makes himself fried bologna for breakfast, which is severely unhealthy for you to eat. I mean, I know it tastes good, but like that's just not healthy. Doesn't even eat bread with it, just straight up just pours ketchup on his paper plate. I mean, like it's just miserable guy. He's living a very miserable life. Like he's poor, but it's not even just because he's poor. I honestly I think he would even live that way even if he had money, to be honest. Like I think he's just given up on it.
Oh, yeah.
And so he goes, takes out his trash. There's this kid who's a really nice kid named Miguel. The reason why I named my name Casual Racism is because when Miguel says that they had just moved to the apartment, he goes, "Great, more immigrants." I'm like, "Hey, that's not nice," but okay. Like, okay.
They calls him Menudo at one point too.
That's right. In the same conversation he does. I'm like, dude, come on, man. And like Miguel didn't even know what that reference was. He's like, is that racism? Or I don't even know what he's even talking about.
It's like he's calling the name of a boy band from the 80s.
Like exactly, like the kid's like 16 years old at this time or so. Anyway.
If people don't know, Menudo is the band that Ricky Martin started in, and if people don't know, Ricky Martin was a singer at one time.
Very famous singer for a good 15 years or maybe 20 years, something like that. He had a long career.
He also, before he became a really famous singer, also was a recurring. Actually, was a main cast member of General Hospital for a short time. So yeah.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, he was a pretty good singer.
Where I do believe he played a character named Miguel. So
my God. That's why maybe they did it as like a fun little like a
maybe
they probably did like a break or something like that. And so, Miguel's like this really nice kid. He's just kind of like, hey, the recyclables go in this, go in this thing, and because Johnny's just throwing his trash and like whatever, like, because again, doesn't care about anything. And so he's like, because Miguel's asking him about like their pipes, because pretty much like a shitty apartment complex, like it's the rent somewhat cheaper, so that therefore the And so he's like, listen, Menudo, I've been living in this shithole for almost 10 years. I think the pipes don't work. The fountain's full of piss. The only good thing about this place is I don't have to talk to anyone. So it's like, so nice knowing you. It's like, oh my God. Like, he's just completely given up. Like, I mean, it's like, it's like, wow. So you haven't talked to a single neighbor in 10 years? That's bad. Like, I wouldn't want to be him, basically. That's kind of what the show is setting up. His downfall, and then him slowly building himself up throughout. If anything, I would personally say, I think Cobra Kai, I think Johnny Lawrence is actually the main character, because Daniel already has everything he wants. He's got a very successful business, got a very pretty wife, got a family, he's got a nice home, and Johnny's, living in this shithole eating fried bologna for breakfast, So
at least with the pilot, I mean, I don't know how the show goes on, but I mean, it's basically the protagonist and the antagonist are flipped. So
it is.
He's kind of Johnny's your protagonist, but he's also like a flawed protagonist, where where he's kind of more of like an anti-hero sort of thing, So
yeah, and plus if you watch the show overall, like his character development just is the writing on the show is just like if anything, this was more about character development than it really. The karate is sort of like the secondary thing. That's like the thing to sort of door. But the show is really about, because like you go like they do all kinds of flashbacks like later on that kind of shows like their backstories. Like Johnny was like this scrawny little kid, got picked on a lot at school, didn't know how to defend himself, and that's when he discovered Cobra Kai. So he was riding his bike one day, during summer or whatever. He's listening to Boston on his headphones. Don't Look Back, great song. Not a great album. The first Boston album is a lot, but anyway, that's a side point. Boston put all of their great songwriting skills into one album, and then after that, they had a few good songs, but it never could surpass that album. If you listen to that first album, literally every single song on that album was played on the radio at some point. You don't get that for a lot of albums. And so it's like 10 tracks. Anyway, I don't want to get too much on Boston.
We'll do another episode later in the future about the band Boston.
The band Boston, because they're great. I mean, God, such a great album. Anyway, so that's
Tom Scholes from the band is from Toledo, Ohio. So
yeah, he is, and so he's a very, very good guitarist. And so Johnny's rocking out. This is later on. This is not a pilot episode, but I'm just saying, like they do a lot of character development to talk about like where these people come from, kind of why they react to things the way they do. A lot of it has to do with like fathers and sons, or like male role models, and like how that could sort of uplift or break a person's spirit depending on who is her. So like obviously John Kreese put Johnny on a very dark path, but then we learn later on even John Kreese has a really traumatic backstory. So it's basically just like every single horrible character in this show at one point was innocent, you know, and then, like, and,
Yeah, I mean,
and
that's
then, yeah,
that's a way to write things sometimes, but there's also, I think that can be overdone too, when you don't need to know the backstory of some people. Like when Rob Zombie did his Halloween movies, I really didn't need to know the whole backstory of Michael Myers. I really didn't.
right. Well, this show does it pretty well because they don't like dwell like 100%. Like here's John Kreese's. Yeah.
It's better done in a TV series where you have things like this because it makes more sense. Ooh, there's some cops outside where I am, if you can hear them in the background. Anyway, so
Yeah.
yeah, they're not coming to get me, I swear. And yeah, but yeah, when you do it in a TV series, it makes more sense to develop things. But in a movie, I don't like it when you give too much backstory for your villain. I mean, sometimes it works, but you know, yeah.
Depends on how much time you have in the pay stuff like that.
Mhm.
You know, TV is much easier to write as well because you have more time. I personally like, at this point in my life, I actually like TV more in terms of like developing a story than a movie.
yeah.
Because you move 2 hours, maybe 3, you know, and then that's it. And
Yeah.
Cobra Kai, I did the math. So I did like, you know, okay, so there's like total is going to be 65 episodes by the time that ends with 15 episodes. So I did the math. I'm like, okay, so if we were going to split this up into 2-hour film, Cobra Kai, the TV show, would be the equivalent of 16 movies. So you got like the first 3 Karate Kid and then add 16. So technically you have 19 Karate Kid movies to tell this story. That's not counting the next Karate Kid with Hilary Duff, which I'm hoping they're going to make that canon.
Hilary Swank.
Hilary Swank. From also that great movie with Jack Black and Jason Biggs, Saving Silver. She was in that movie too.
No, she wasn't.
She wasn't her. Who was that then?
You're probably thinking of there's some other people in it, but I know she's not in that movie. There's like 2 different women in that movie, but yeah.
I'm talking about the main one that was like bitch, basically.
That's probably a man. What's her name? Let's see.
Well, I got it wrong.
Yeah, no. I just know she's not in that. You're probably thinking of Amanda Peet or Amanda Detmer. Amanda Peet is probably the main star of it. Yeah, she looks a little bit more like Hilary Swank. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, well, yeah, I got that wrong. But it's like I hope that they're gonna make that canon. Anyway, I don't want to go too far into that, but like, so, you know, he's living this crappy life. He's kind of, there's a lot of parallels between him and Mr. Miyagi, by the way, because like he's like a handyman, and that was Mr. Miyagi was pretty much like the super at the apartment complex movie. Johnny travels for work. He doesn't actually work in the same spot or whatever. He's pretty much doing those kind of jobs.
Yeah, they're setting it up where Miguel is the new Daniel and Johnny is the new Miyagi. So yeah,
there's actually tons of parallel. Not just that, but I actually wrote some down earlier. There's actually a lot of like Easter eggs are kind of thrown in there. Pair him to Mr. Miyagi. It's very interesting. And so, you know, people treat him like crap at work, obviously, because he's like the underdog here. So he's doing all these jobs for rich people, and you know the kids are like really doing squirt guns at him when he's on the ladder trying to clean the gutters. And finds a nasty ass rat inside the gutters, and trying to level a TV at this rich bitch's house, like. The TV goes on the other side of the wall, and he's like, you said
about that rat, though. People don't realize that was also the star of a famous movie from our childhood. I hate to break it to people. That was Fievel from American Tail. That's what happened.
No. I thought you were going to say Splinter like in Ninja Turtles. I'm like, wait, that's Splinter? No.
Yeah, that was Splinter.
No, West, and he didn't make it all the way. Unfortunately, he didn't make the trip. He tried, but you know, sometimes these things don't work out. That's terrible. And so he gets fired because he told that woman, you know, to stop bitching at him, and so she's like, oh well, he called me a bitch, even though she is objectively, she was treating him horrible because she did typical crap too, where they don't give you the actual correct instructions. They just like assume that you know what they're talking about, and so they're like, oh well. I said to put the TV across the door, and he's like, this is like, no, not that door. It's like, well, then you should have been the one to, like, if there's 2 doors, you should have been one to say this door. Like that's your job. Like, you know, and so, you know, his boss fired because, you know, he called her a bitch, even though.
Yeah.
And then kind of funny, he's like, no, I didn't call her a bitch. I said she was bitching. There's a difference. Then he talks like, you're firing me because of that bitch. And then so he gets fired. Now he's pissed off. He turns on the radio in his car. By the way, he like perpetually lives in the 80s because like that's where he was on top. So he's never really gotten past that. So he still drives a Firebird Pontiac. He listens to like Poison, like all of these 80s rock and glam metal bands or whatever.
Yeah, he's got that. He's got that Uncle Rico kind of thing going for him, where you're just living in the moment when you were popular.
It's the Uncle John, yes. And then, and so, he's just kind of like, he's like so defeated, because he has to, see all these billboards of Daniel constantly, opening up new locations every year, it seems like. So he's just like insanely wealthy, very successful, very happy at what he's doing with life. And he's got to hear their commercials, etc. So he's just like, God damn it. No. And then so he goes to this mini mall to buy dinner. And he's just like eyeing like a slice of pizza for like 10 minutes. Like, I want that one. I'm like, oh my God, dude, really? Like, you're sitting there like deciding what slice you want. And so Miguel, he shows up there. He's trying to get some Pepto-Bismol for his grandma. She's got some stomach problems. And he's like, it was for my grandma. And he's like, didn't ask. I'm like, dude, why are you so mean to this kid? It's like all he wants to do is like be nice to you and like, and you're just like, oh, whatever, kid, get away from me. It's like, oh my God, man, what's the matter with you? And then so he gets the slice he wants. He's like, arguing with the guy who owns the store, just being like a pest, mainly. And then he grabs a slice, he eats it in front of his car. Some homeless woman's like basically accusing him of trying to use her mart to, hustle.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not homeless, that's my car. And then these other high school kids, they came there to buy some beer illegally, and then Miguel accidentally blew up their spot because he recognized school and he said hi. And so the guy who works there, owns the place, knows that they're high school kids and he's not going to sell them liquor and get in trouble or whatever. Because you can go to jail for that shit or get a big fine if you sell liquor to underage people. It's not like a non-problem. It's a big problem. So because I actually know someone, a guy who just would never card people.
Mm-hmm.
Like he worked at a gas station, and he just never carded anyone because he just didn't feel like it was like take 2 seconds to check, and he just didn't do it. And he got like written up like so many times to the point where there was like a bench warrant against him. It's like, dude, just card people. Like, what's the big deal? Like I don't know.
I mean, you're legally supposed to card people if they look anywhere, like if they look like they're under 40 or something. So just be safe. So yeah.
But anyway, just to make a habit of it. Yeah, but anyway, so he doesn't sell them the liquor, so they're like pushing him around, they're teasing him, bullying him because they see he's got the Pepto-Bismol. So they're like, we're gonna call him Rhea for diarrhea, and he pours the stuff all over his head and calls him a bitch, and then Miguel calls him an asshole, and then Johnny looked, he's like, he already knows exactly what's going to happen now after he said that. Like, he's like, oh shit. Like, he has a ass kicked now. And he's pretty much just going to let it happen until they throw him against his car. That's the only time
he doesn't really give a shit about this kid being beat up. He just cares about his car. Yeah.
I mean, at this point in the story, because he's just, and so that finally gets him kind of angry, like, oh my God, like, because up to this point, he's not really angry. He's just very like defeated. Like there's like that simmering anger, but he's just like a defeated man at this point. Like he goes through life just being perpetually disappointed, and he doesn't really have any fight left. And so these kids start calling him a loser and picking on him, and he just got fired and shit. And so he just does like this crescent moon kick just to the kid's face. I'm like, dude, you could have like punched him. You could have done anything. You just go straight to a kick to the head. It's just like,
yeah.
And then it just beats the shit out of like 5 of these dudes. Still apparently knows the moves, even though he hasn't practiced in like several decades, probably. Which that would seem a little unbelievable to me too. It's like, I understand you probably would remember a few moves, but like, would you be able to do all that shit if you haven't practiced in like 20 or 30 years? I don't know.
No, I mean, like, I don't remember how to do anything that I did yesterday, let alone just. So
yeah, go ahead.
The actor who plays Miguel, I feel bad about not knowing how to say his name, so I found a pronunciation of him saying it. So I'm going to play that really quick.
Sure.
Yeah, so we'll play that again.
Okay, Cholo. Yeah, because XOLO, but Cholo is pronounced Cholo.
Yeah, so I cannot pronounce that. So that's how he say his name. So there we go.
There you go.
I just want to give the guy respect and have people know how to say his name, and I will try to learn it eventually. So there we go. Okay, so
I mean, no, that's good though, because he's a really good kid, and at least his character is. I don't know, I don't know anything about the actor.
Yeah.
I assume the actor's pretty. And so Johnny just straight up beats the shit out of these guys. The cops come, they mace him, hit him with the billy club. He gets out, he gets bailed out of jail next day. Turns out it's his stepfather Sid, who is just like this rich dude, but he was never really
played by the late great Ed Asner. So yeah.
Yeah, he plays this role very. He's only in a few episodes, but everything he's good. Well, he wasn't great in Christmas Vacation too, but I'll give him a pass for that. Maybe I don't know, but
nobody was really great in that movie, and I kind of blame the and I do believe I remember he made the movie for money, so it's not.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, hey. It was a job, type of thing.
Yeah.
So, Sid, bails him out. He basically just outright tells him, like, the only reason why he ever even cared about him was because of his mom that he married when she was, like, really young. He was probably, like, 9.
Yeah.
So it's, like, basically, I don't even give a shit about you. Like, I just tolerated you were my wife's son, essentially. It's like, oh, wow, that's great. That makes you feel really warm inside, So he's like, hey, I'm buying you out of my life. Here's a check. This is the last I'm giving you, and then we're done. And then Johnny's like, seriously? Like, so he just, like, rips up the check. He's like, I'd rather be homeless than take money. Like, oh, okay, that's great, whatever.
Yeah.
He's got like this who just like lives with him essentially to just like Ed, Sid's like, what? It's like blood pressure. He's like, oh, shut up, watch your bullshit judge show or whatever she was watching. But he just has this woman just like live like she's so miserable. I mean, I would be too if I had to like live around this guy all the time. Just like so mean and just like alone. What's interesting to parallels to that though, because Sid is almost like the rich version of Johnny. Like he just lives alone, has no friend. Like nobody for him except for his aide. That's probably the only person in his life that's actually around him, but even she doesn't really like him very much. Rightfully so, because he's the one who's acting the way he does. So, we got this thing where Johnny is like, he's kind of like invigorated a little bit from the fight, but he's still, that's not really enough to kind of get him going again. So he goes back to drinking. He's pouring whiskey into a beer can that he had just finished. So we got, he's pretty much like a listless alcoholic. That's kind of his character at this point.
Yeah.
He's watching one of the old 80s movies because, again, everything he does is in the 80s. He's watching Iron Will, I think.
It's Iron,
Iron Heart?
No, I just had it.
Oh, okay.
Iron Eagle.
Iron Eagle.
Yeah, which is, it was a series of those movies with Louis Gossett Jr., who sadly passed away recently too. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's watching Iron Eagle because, again, like everything's 80s for him. And so there's that scene where the guy dies or seemingly at the end of the movie, and he's playing back this tape that the guy told him to listen ever like died. Yeah. It's basically like a pep talk saying stuff like, God doesn't give people gifts that they're not. Starts like thinking back to his past of like, being in karate and stuff. And he's like kind of crying a little bit, just sort of thinking about, like the good old days. And then, he's just like having this emotional moment. And then boom, it shows a Daniel Russo car commercial. And he's just like, God damn it. He's sitting there trying to turn off the TV. And of course the remote doesn't work. So he just like throws the whiskey bottle at his TV and just breaks it. And goes for a drive drunk, because that's what you do, right? When you're having a spiral. And
it always bothers me in movies and TV shows when somebody breaks a TV. I just like, what the? Even if it's crappy old TV, I'm like, that's going to cost you, man. Because then
I get your anger.
Think about it in my head, because I accidentally, mainly it's because like this past year I accidentally broke my TV, and so I think about the fact that you gotta buy a new one and all that stuff, and it's just like annoying. So.
It's like if I was angry, I would just break something that's not important to me. If I needed to like break something,
it's like my sister when we were younger, and we used to have cordless phones in the house. She literally broke about 10 cordless phones in her life, because she'd be on the phone like fighting with her boyfriend or something and throw the phone at the wall, and I'd be like, Christy, we all need to use the phone. Like,
that's just another one. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So he breaks his TV, which again he's probably gonna have to replace. Eager handyman income, which I imagine is really not that much. And because pretty much all the jobs that are actually hard to do, they don't pay you anything, and the jobs that are easy, they get paid lots of money. That's just how things are set up in our country, or any country in a matter. Seems like you're like, oh yeah, you're the one that does actually all the hard shit. Yeah, we're gonna pay you about $8 an hour. Oh, you who like sits in your chair and like occasionally like dribbles like a drawing. you get $1,000. Like, oh, anyway, so capitalism. He
That's how
goes
it
for a
goes.
nice drop with it.
I said that's how it goes.
That's how it goes. Yeah. So he goes through a nice little stroll while drinking his whiskey bottle in a paper bag. But that's the other thing too. I always hated. Like, oh, you're really tricking people by putting it in a paper bag. Like they know that's what you're doing. So, like,
Yeah.
if anything, it would be less suspicious if you were drinking it without a paper bag because they would just think you're drinking like a soda or something. So, if anything, you're bringing attention to the fact crime. But fine, whatever. Do what you gotta do.
I mean, nowadays, if you do it, you're stupid, in my opinion, because you just get like one of those reusable Stanley cups or something and throw it in there.
And you get yourself like a breath refreshener and it's built in so that you don't smell like liquor, isn't it? And
So I don't want to. I don't want to advertise a restaurant that I think is kind of evil for the things that they donate to. But speaking of fresh breath, my father went and used the restroom at a Chick-fil-A the other day.
Okay.
And he told me that they have this new thing. They have in their bathrooms, because I think this is actually kind of cool. They have these little like disposable cups, and they have a little thing where you can get mouthwash out of a dispenser. They have a mouthwash dispenser in the bathroom, and then you can get little water in it and rinse your mouth out after you have your food if you don't want your breath to stink like chicken or whatever. So
I guess that's actually not a bad idea.
I actually thought it was genius. So
that actually is a pretty good because you get the freshen your mouth up, clean your teeth a little. Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, if you're stopping in the restaurant to eat lunch while you're at work and you want to go back and, if you're like a lawyer or something, you need to talk to clients later, then you don't have to worry about having a toothbrush at work or something,
Or like most people aren't going to have like a thing of Listerine at work, like just waiting. Yeah, that's actually is, a terrible company, but yeah, it's a pretty good idea. Yeah. Evil people and bigots and stuff, but yeah, it's sometimes even evil people come up with a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Hitler had a few good ideas. They had nothing to do with fascism. Maybe at one point Hitler was like, "Hey, maybe we should put the rug on this side of the room." And like, oh well, there you go. Hey, doesn't mean everything else he's doing is good, but
he
when it comes to rugs,
he's a vegetarian.
Yeah, so
yeah.
So that means if you want to be a good vegetarian, you gotta be like Hitler. No,
that makes up for all the killing, right? No, it's just
no, it doesn't.
That's how people act about like Donald Trump. Sometimes they're like, oh well, one time he did this one good thing, so that makes up for all of the bad things he's done. It's like, no, it doesn't.
The whole thing, Joe Rogan, well, Joe Rogan makes a few good points. I'm like, okay, so why would you want to go turd mining? Like, you're gonna listen to like 8 hours of Joe Rogan for like maybe 10 minutes of good points when you can just listen to other people who just continuously make those good points. It's like
a stuck or broken clock is right twice a day. It doesn't mean that it's still a good clock. Yeah.
So Johnny's basically spiraling at this point. He's driving drunk, swerving around. He's lucky he's not causing any car. And then he eventually goes to the All Valley Sports Arena where he's lost. He's sort of just like he's reminiscing. He's both reminiscing and spiraling at the same time. So like he'll have like a memory, he'll smile, and then he'll have a memory of Daniel kind of moving in on his girl. And, then he thinks about getting kicked, so he's kind of like pounding his steering wheel a little bit, and he eventually gets to the sports arena, and then he starts having the memory of where John Kreese was like basically like got him in a chokehold, just because he didn't win the match. That's the other thing too about this story, these karate. There's like tons of adults on minor physical assault, and nobody gets in trouble for it. Like it's fine. Like you're allowed to Johnny 17.
Johnny got arrested, but honestly,
he did.
I think in real society, though, in like the real world, after he beat the asses of these teenagers in front of that carryout, he probably would still be in jail.
He would be. There is one point though where Miguel's pestering him about what that was, and he's like, I don't even know if I'm allowed to be around kids right now, because of what happened. He's like, listen, I don't even know if I ought to be talking to you.
In the real world, there's no way in hell he would be able to open up a dojo.
No, absolutely not. Like, oh, by the way, I'm gonna start teaching the shit I just used on those 16-year-olds. It's like, wait,
two other 16-year-olds. It's like,
hey, remember how I kicked those teenagers when I'm a 51-year-old man? I'm gonna teach you to do the same thing to those 16-year-olds.
Yeah,
it's like,
and they're gonna let these kids just around me in my business. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I'm just gonna let you. Oh my god, this show gets even more crazy where like it's just like John Kreese eventually does show up back in the show and he ends
Yeah.
up punching this one kid in the face just because the kid was annoying him. Like he didn't even like do any like he wasn't even like trying to fight him. He wasn't like he came into the dojo by himself and Kreese was there all alone and the kid was being annoying. He's like, oh, my friends have been asking me to join the club and it's like it's not a club, it's a dojo. So it's like everything this kid's saying is rubbing him the wrong way, like calling it a club, making up ground rules. He's like, I want to learn how to hit and kick, but without getting hit or kicked. So it's just like, no, it's not how it works. And then he goes and criticizes his tattoo, and he's like, oh, well, technically the Cobra's eyes are not like this. They're a little bit more round, and it's just like he's just touching the dude's like arm. I'm like, dude, boundaries, man. Like you just don't walk up to somebody and start touching them. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, but
it's
still,
so like creepy.
You don't punch a kid.
No, you don't. No, you don't. But yeah, no, I agree. He shouldn't hit a kid in the face. I understand, but he was pretty annoying, so he kind of had it coming. He did not have it coming. So that's later on. That's not. But just like in general, there's a lot of adult on children violence that just never gets like nobody gets in trouble for.
Yeah.
Like we're like, oh well, they're 16. I'm like, yeah, but that's still children. Like, yeah, but they're not kids. I'm like, it doesn't matter. You can't punch someone in the face. Like whether they're 10 or 16, the law is the same.
Try that in the real world and see what happens. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Go ahead and punch a 16-year-old in the face and see what happens. Not gonna be good.
Please don't take that advice.
Don't. Sorry, I wasn't trying to encourage crimes here.
Yes.
So he's kind of having a spiral going on. He's remembering, just, the bad times with his teacher as well, because it's like he looked up to him and then at the same time, he abused him right after a tournament just because he didn't get first place. And he even kicked him off the team. He's like, if you go in further in the show, you realize at that point, Johnny had been part of Cobra 6 years. So it's not like just some like, oh, you're off the team for after a month. Like you spent a good chunk of your life doing this. And now your teacher's like, fuck you, you lost, you're off the team. Like, wow, okay. And so right at that moment, when he's kind of like doing a fist because he's like really angry at this. He's like, I'm gonna go punch imaginary John Kreese right now, the ghost of Kreese. I'm gonna beat the shit out of him. And then all of a sudden, someone crashes into his car because the idiot had his car parked not by the side. It had a car just sticking out into the road.
Yeah.
Instead of being he was drunk, so I guess that makes sense. But it's like, dude, if you're gonna park your car to the side of the road so that no one could actually hit you. So it turns out it was this rich girl named Yasmin. She's got a couple other friends in there. They're like telling him to go. He goes berserk on them, trying to force open the door to like yell at them. They end up off. He can't start his car anymore. And so, which is weird. The car had an airbag, and I'm thinking, did the Firebirds have cars have airbags that early on, or is that I don't know when airbags started.
Some did, I believe.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but like the airbag goes off, and then he's got to get the car towed, right? Well, where's the car get towed? LaRusso Auto. So he's like, God damn it, So he's like, he's trying to go there with like a hoodie. He's got sunglasses on. He's trying to be really inconspicuous. He wants to get his car taken out of there because he doesn't want to, give any business to Daniel. Daniel, of course, sees him and wants to talk, and Johnny, of course, is getting irritated by this again because he doesn't really like Daniel, even after.
Yeah.
After all these years, there is a little bit of continuity issue though, because again, I'm nitpicking, but I don't really care, but it's interesting. So at the end of Karate Kid, first movie, he loses to Daniel. He gets second place. He actually hugs Daniel at the very end and says, "You're all right, LaRusso." And then after that, it's when the thing happens. So it's weird that he changes feelings towards Daniel in a positive direction at the end of the movie, but now he's back to where he was, where he hated them. So I don't really know how that happened. Maybe just seeing him successful made him bitter or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't really know.
Because we don't know what happened in the intervening 34 years, Yeah.
Well, we know that they haven't seen each other since that time. But yeah, he could have just been really bitter about, or it could have just been a continuity issue that he just didn't think of at the time.
Yeah.
That could have been as well. Because a lot of times they don't like watch like every single. It's fans because we sort of assume that writers are like watching every little detail that we are. They're like, well, how come they missed that? They didn't write that part. And it's like, well, they're not doing the same thing we're doing, They're watching it, sure, to come up with ideas, but they're not like, oh,
plus
you see that
But you mainly it was just you needed a conceit for the existence of the TV series, because otherwise
Yeah, you wouldn't have.
for it. Yeah.
I mean, you could. It would just be a completely different show where it would be Daniel and Johnny team up to start their own dojo, but that wouldn't really be as exciting. It wouldn't be as much conflict going on. So, Daniel's basically pitying him a little bit, like, hey man, like this is gonna cost more than a car is worth. Like, just let me do this for you as a solid. Our guys can learn how to work on an old car like this if you're not used to. You get it fixed for free. We all win the situation. Johnny feels, kind of humiliated, but he goes with it because he doesn't have any other choice in the matter. And so, and they kind of tease him a little bit, like, oh, this is a guy whose ass you kicked in high school, and they're like, no, it was a really close match, and technically though I kicked his face, and Johnny's like, yeah, it was an illegal kick, and he's like, oh, illegal, like that time when they're already starting to argue with each other about that. That's just so sad about this, right? Go ahead.
That's another thing. In the original movie, there was no mention of that being an illegal kick at all. So
technically it is, but there's no mention in it. There are certain moves that you're not allowed to do.
Actually, technically, I looked it up. It's not illegal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, according to the trivia.
I thought you're not allowed to, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you weren't allowed to hit someone in the face, especially like the under 18 tournaments. But
yeah, the way it goes, I don't think it was actually illegal. So, but that's up for debate, I guess. So yeah.
Well, I just thought it was. I mean, I just took his word for it. It's a TV show, but he did commit several crimes though, because in order for Daniel to even get in the tournament, he had to be at least a brown belt or a black belt. Mr. Miyagi lied and said he was a black belt, and then he took a black belt, have him put it on. So right there, cheating to get in. So automatic grounds of disqualification just from the get-go, Daniel, criminal. And then there are certain things he wasn't allowed to do. Like, for example, he went out of bounds several times. They didn't call that against him. That's fine. So technically Daniel was a cheater anyway. But it's fine, whatever. Sometimes cheaters win, so it's good. What's that?
It's a movie.
It's a movie. No, it's a real life. It's a movie. But it's also real at the same time, okay? It's one of those things. You gotta go with it. And
it's not a documentary.
It's not a documentary, but come on, Daniel LaRusso is such a punk though. Because everyone acts like he's such pure as a driven snow. Oh, because he was bullied, so that makes everything okay, really? Everything okay, so he caused a collision of several car accidents during how property damage galore. He could have caused severe injury by running on top. He ran on top of a hood of a car, jumped off of it, and that caused several car accidents. Someone could have gotten killed. It made whiplash at the very least. So there you go. He doused Johnny with water at the bathroom when he was trying to roll up a joint. At that point, they hadn't even had a conflict for several months, and Daniel just decides to start shit up again. Well, okay, the conflict was over. It was it. And he's like, no, I got to keep doing that. I got to keep the fire, crackling here or whatever. That's a terrible analogy, whatever. And so fine, whatever. Daniel's now successful. He deserves everything he gets. Johnny deserves all the crappy things he gets because he was a bully for like 4 months of his life. Sure. That's the other sad thing about this, is that they only knew each other for a maximum of 7 months of their entire life. 31 years later, they're still arguing about it. I'm like, really, guys? Come on. Like, this is sad. It really is. It's actually even more sad for Daniel, because Daniel actually has a good life. Johnny, that's all he has, right? So he has to cling on, not cling on as in like Star Trek characters, but he has to like cling on to like whatever moment he has that was actually good. Daniel has like thousands of good moments since then. He's like, no, I have to take away the one good moment Johnny has left, so I could take that too. So he has nothing. Daniel's the hero of the story? Okay, sure, I get it. If you think villains are heroes and heroes are villains, then I guess Trump is a hero, according to some people, right?
Well, this is the reason this is the reason the TV show exists. So
no, it doesn't exist, so I can complain about it.
No. You know what I'm saying?
So anyway,
is it exists a different point of view where we look at Johnny as the hero as opposed to Daniel. So yeah,
we do. The show actually goes back and forth on that too.
Mm-hmm.
So the show will actually a little while kind of get you on Johnny's side, but then it will start veering over to Daniel's side a little bit, and then it'll kind of go back and forth between those two. And
you want a long-running TV series, so yeah.
So the show is really great overall. I'm sorry, I'm like talking too much here, like 55 minutes in, but like. So basically what happens is he's going to give Johnny his bonsai tree because every customer gets one. By the way, fun fact, you can't produce that many bonsai. Like, I mean, he'd be having to give it out like hundreds a year. They take forever to grow.
Probably more than that, probably thousands if he's that successful.
If he's that successful, yeah, each customer gets one. So we're looking at like, yeah, thousands a year, unless they're just like really horribly made bonsai trees that are just like pieces of shit, and he's giving them away for free. But then that would then sort of dishonor Mr. Miyagi because he cared about those trees, so he wouldn't.
I think the whole idea of giving everybody a bonsai tree actually discredits Mr. Miyagi and makes just you know. It's not good either, because
it does a little bit.
It's commercializing the whole idea of them of something that was special between you and another guy. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah.
To him, he's doing it because it feels like he's doing the right thing, but it's like, because it does kind of come off as a gimmick a little bit to other people.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it'd be like if your grandpa and his, when gave you his old watch that he wore when he was fighting in World War II or something, and then and you open up a business and you give every one of your customers a replica of that watch, it would not really mean as much anymore.
Exactly. It'd be like, it's just, it's kind of weird. So Johnny, he drops the. Oh, also too, Johnny sees his daughter come in, and that was one of the girls that was in the car.
Yeah, so that's
his car.
Something there. So yeah,
she was not the one driving; she was in the back seat, but she was in the car when it happened. And so he's like, "Oh, of course, this is where this is gonna go off." So he drops the bonsai tree in the middle of the parking lot. Everyone's kind of looking at him like, "Dude, what the fuck you do that for?" And then he goes, picks up the torn up check that Sid gave him to tape back together so he can use that to open up his own dojo, and he's gonna make Miguel his new student, and that's then boom, he puts up the strike hard, no mercy bullshit.
Yeah, and so the Cobra Kai.
Then he's like, I'm gonna teach you the method that I was taught, and he's like, are you gonna be my karate teacher? He's like, no, I'm gonna. By the way, fun fact: sensei means teacher in Japanese, so that's all it is. It's not like a secret mystical, like, oh, my sensei. No, your math teacher is your sensei. Your gym coach is your sensei. Like
on The Office when Dwight was taking karate and he insisted on calling his karate teacher sensei, even though the guy didn't want to be called that. So
he's like, no, I'm your teacher. Like it's fine. Like, no, because it's like seems exotic. Oh, my sensei. No, it just means your teacher. Anyone who instructs you in anything, it could be like violin, be like your volleyball coach, it could be soccer coach. Well, maybe not a coach, but whatever. Be any class, like your social studies.
Well, it's like when you put a word and use the a foreign language version of that word when you're when your main language is English, like Americans do a lot of times, it gives it this exotic feel to it and makes it more important or scarier or whatever, So it's like, it's like something like where they use jihad and they don't understand what it means and stuff, it's just different things, So
jihad, I'm like, oh, you mean these strugglers? Because that's what jihad means. Those people who are struggling against whatever. Yeah. Okay. Or like the same thing too, like sometimes people will say Allah instead of God because they want to see like Allah's like version of Islam, or it's like Islam's version of God, so it's like its own separate thing. It's like, no, it's just the God in Arabic.
I mean it's like if we called a quesadilla a cheese tortilla, it wouldn't have as much.
Right. Can I have a cheese tortilla and a burrito? Doesn't burrito mean like cow? Like a burro? Doesn't burro mean cow? Or like
I don't remember, but I think it means like little burro or something. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, girl. Thinking of whatever. I don't know. Little cow.
Like little burro, like I think little donkey or something. So yeah.
Can I have little donkey? To like, what the fuck? Yeah. Can you wrap it in the shell, right? A small donkey in the shell. Yeah. You put it in the shell. Or a taco. I'm not even sure what the English version of taco would be. Anyway.
Probably taco.
But yeah, the whole sensei thing. What's that? What'd you say?
I was saying it would be taco.
Taco. Yeah, taco doesn't have any like it's just the same word. Like there's no.
Yeah, burrito means little donkey in Spanish.
So. How did that become a name for a food dish that's not donkey based?
Yeah, so basically it's because it's based on the idea that the name burrito as applied to the dish possibly derives from the tendency for burritos or little donkeys to contain a lot of different things similar to how a burrito, I mean the food, to contain a lot of different things similar to how a donkey would be able to carry a large burden. So they.
Oh. Okay, all right. I mean,
you're
that makes
a
sense.
lot of things, and like you would put a lot of things on the back of a donkey. Yeah. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and that does make sense. I mean, people make all kind of weird food metaphors. I mean, like pigs in a
I mean,
blanket, for
but
example. You know.
when we boil down to it, all words are made up. Yeah. So
Oh,
like,
sure. I mean, absolutely.
I was at work the other day, and somebody said some word like I don't know what we were talking about, but it was a word that was a legitimate word that people use, and somebody says that sounds like a made up word, and I was like, every word's a made up word.
Like literally every
Yeah.
before, like when we were cavemen.
Yeah.
And we were just like gesturing to each other. That was still a language in
No,
itself.
no word just existed. It's just
No,
yeah.
the word come from the heavens. We're like, okay,
Even the word
pocket meat.
didn't exist.
Yeah, even the word
Yeah.
did not.
Yeah.
Very
So
true. Very true.
yeah. Any other thoughts here about this episode?
No, and feel free to edit some of this down, by the way, because I was kind of going off on tangents, so
we'll
I
be
don't
good.
give a shit.
Either way, I edit. Yeah, we'll be good. Yeah. So that's all I really had to say. I liked the episode. I'm probably gonna get back into watching the show eventually. When I get off of some of the other shows I'm binging right now. So but yeah, hope you enjoyed this episode. Folks, make sure you go to all2reeltoo.com to check out all of our links and all of everything there. Our show notes are listed there. We've got merch over at TeePublic. There's a link there on that for that as well. Also, you can help support us by going to Patreon. And another way you can help support us is to subscribe to the show on whatever app or however you're listening to this. Just subscribe. It's very simple. You don't have to listen to every episode. Just listen to the ones you want to, but subscribe. It helps get our name out there and helps support the show. Give us a 5-star review. That's another great way to help. You can go to Apple Podcasts and give us a review there. Also, I believe on Spotify, and you can review individual episodes on Spotify as well.
Yeah.
Also, another way you could do it is you could open up your own dojo and call it the All2ReelToo Dojo. And then when people ask you why you called it that, you say, well, I just named it after my favorite podcast.
Yeah.
That's the best way to spread it. So,
That's the way to do it.
it's the most inexpensive in a way it isn't.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I mean, you got to get permits and it's the whole.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just remember, that I love you. Don't beat up teenagers. No, Sesame loves you.
It's true.
Trans lives are human lives. Free Palestine. And until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All2ReelToo podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.